afternoon. I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. It's Monday, July 7th. Many agencies and organizations across the region are assisting in Central Texas. One notable assistance was from the U.S. Coast Guard Sector Corpus Christi. Scott Ruskin, a rescue swimmer, assisted in the evacuation of more than 160 people during the Central Texas floods on July 4th. He led triage coordination for most of the operation, helping direct victims, including girls from Camp Mystic, to rescue helicopters. Corpus Christi firefighters join the emergency response in Kerrville as flooding recovery continues. In Central Texas, authorities say at least more than 80 people are dead after devastating flooding on the 4th of July weekend. As search and rescue operations continue, people in the area hit by the flood are starting the slow recovery process. Houston Public Media's Dominic Anthony Walsh has more.
Residents say they never imagined a disaster like this was possible. Outside Lilia and Joe Herrera's home along the Guadalupe River, a front-end loader lifts their ruined possessions into a dumpster.
I'm watching them throw all my stuff, all my everything. Yeah, my whole house is empty. It's devastating.
Their home flooded with about 2 feet of water, and they don't have flood insurance because they say it's not in a floodplain. Neighbors are coming together to help clean out mud and debris, the first steps on the long road to recovery. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh in Kerrville, Texas.
We'll continue our look at the Central Texas flooding in just a bit, but first, Corpus Christi firefighters monitored a grass fire on Padre Island over the holiday weekend. In a Facebook post, Nueces County ESD 2 said fireworks started a grass fire near the yacht club this past Friday evening. The post said there was zero danger to any homes in the area, and the fire would have burnt itself out in a matter of hours. Last year, fire crews battled a 60-acre fire on the beach. Other fires on Padre Island were reported during the holiday in 2023. Beginning tomorrow, westbound traffic on Commodores Drive will be redirected to the newly constructed bridge. This traffic shift is designed to improve traffic flow and reduce congestion in the area. As construction continues, newly open lanes are still subject to periodic closures. While the new lanes will be open to westbound traffic, they remain part of an active construction zone and may be subject to periodic closures. Eastbound traffic on Commodores Drive will continue to follow the existing detour to accommodate ongoing construction and ensure driver safety. Vector Control is actively working to manage mosquito populations across Corpus Christi by conducting regular maintenance and targeting mosquito breeding grounds, particularly areas with standing water. They aim to reduce the presence of mosquitoes and minimize the risk of mosquito-borne diseases. Vector Control places larvicide tablets in stagnant water areas in the afternoon and then sprays for adult mosquitoes in the evening. If the mosquito population remains elevated, the city will continue these efforts. Today, the city will focus on adult mosquito control zones 4, 5, 7, and 8, as well as mosquito larvae control zones 1, 2, 3, and 6. In state news, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is calling lawmakers back to Austin to take a second shot at passing 6 bills he vetoed last month. The special session is set to begin on July 21st, 2 weeks from today. The biggest question at hand, how should Texas regulate consumable hemp products containing THC? But the Texas Newsroom's Blaze Gainey reports that some lawmakers suspect an even bigger issue may end up on the agenda.
As of right now, Texas House Representative John Bryant, a Dallas Democrat, says he suspects the upcoming special session will go beyond Abbott's recent veto.
The real reason for this special session is the governor wants to do what Donald Trump has asked him to do, and that is, in the middle of the decade, to take up congressional redistricting and redraw the congressional lines so that the Republicans can win more seats.
While the governor hasn't publicly addressed this, calls from the White House to redraw lines are real. States are required to redistrict each decade after a census is taken. Bryant believes redistricting outside of that time frame is unconstitutional, but isn't sure a Trump-appointed Supreme Court would stop it from happening. I'm Blaze Gainey in Austin.
After the catastrophic flooding along the upper Guadalupe River this weekend, many are asking the question, how could this disaster have happened? And the answer is Flash Flood Alley. Texas Public Radio's David Martin Davies takes a look at why this area is so susceptible to flash flooding and what can be done to save lives the next time.
The rolling terrain, the limestone formations, the lazy rivers, the same qualities that attract people to the beauty of the Texas Hill Country is what also makes the area so deadly.
When rain happens, water flows at really fast speed.
That's Nassar Garabi, professor of civil and environmental engineering at Texas A&M University. He studies flash floods, and he says the key word is flash.
Flash flooding is really the most lethal type of flooding. 70%, 72% of fatalities happen in flash flood events. About 40% flash flood events that happened in Texas happen in this region.
Karabi says another contributing factor is the development of sudden storms, which happened on July 4th. But it's not practical to build massive infrastructure to try to hold back the water.
The key thing needs to be a better warning system.
But during a press conference on Friday, Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly said,
"We do not have a warning system on the river."
And he said local officials were caught off guard.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming.
Rick Spinrad, the former head of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says that's not true.
Weather Service did their job, getting out forecasts, getting watches and warnings out Wednesday and then into Thursday.
Spinrad says the recent Trump administration layoffs to the National Weather Service has impacted local weather forecasting, but the warnings were sent out.
The Weather Service is down probably about 25% on its staffing, including at the two weather forecast offices directly involved in the flooding on the Guadalupe River in San Angelo and Austin, San Antonio.
Nevertheless, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, criticized NOAA for its performance leading up to the flood.
Everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long.
I do not know what she's talking about with respect to antiquated equipment. And so consequently, the major change that has been made by this administration of the Weather Service is the reduction in staffing. We're starting to see the consequences of that in terms of the horrible developments in Texas this weekend.
So what went wrong? Spinrad says the problem is getting the warnings to the people who need them when every second counts. Nim Kidd, chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, also makes that point.
There can be all kinds of alert systems that are sent, but just sending the message is not the same as receiving the message, having a plan to do something when you receive the message, and then the ability to implement that plan.
Carrie Stevens studies how Texans deal with flash flood risk. She's a professor at the University of Texas at Austin in organizational communications and technology. She says many people, especially newcomers to the area, don't understand how deadly flash floods are.
They want the beauty of the river, and they just don't understand what 100-year floodplain is, and they don't understand that there's some risk every single year.
Stevens adds that it's hard for people to imagine that a dry creek bed today could be a raging river tomorrow.
The fact that we have this need for water, yet when we get a lot of water in a short period of time, it's absolutely devastating.
Stevens recommends aggressive public awareness campaigns that educates residents and visitors to the dangers of Flash Flood Alley. I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
The Texas Hill Country draws thousands of kids to its popular summer camps every year. Jane Ragsdale was one who turned her love of camp into a career as co-owner and leader of Heart of the Hills. Ragsdale was among many people who died in the flooding in Kerr County. She was 68. And across Texas, former campers and friends were remembering her this weekend. KERA's Penelope Rivera has this appreciation, which includes reporting from Jerry Clayton at Texas Public Radio and Christian McFate at Denton Record Chronicle.
Throughout the 1960s, Ragsdale spent her summers between Camp Mystic and Heart of the Hills. Both of the camps have been devastated by recent floods.
Anyway, I loved every single minute of camp from the first time I stepped foot in one.
That's Ragsdale in a 2015 oral history interview with Kerr County Historical Commission. Ragsdale worked at the camp for more than 40 years. She started with summer jobs that allowed her to focus on her studies at Texas Women's University. Eventually, she became co-owner and camp director.
I feel like I am the trustee of this treasure, and I'm trying to keep it going the best I can so that I can pass it along, give those kids today the same opportunities that I had at camp.
Elizabeth Chetnotha Clark was an editor at the Denton Record Chronicle in the late 70s when Ragsdale interned at the newspaper.
I can see how her positive attitude and her faith, which just shone through her, gave her strength for all these years and for this final lap.
Ava Steindl is from San Antonio. She says she attended the camp in 2010 and became a counselor in 2017, where she worked alongside Ragsdale.
He has taught me and most of these girls everything that we know, from basic life skills to learning how to change a tire.
In her 2015 interview, Ragsdale shared that she couldn't understand why her friends were talking about retirement.
And when I get up, I'm not going to work. I'm just doing what I love. The person who loves what they do is always on vacation.
I'm Penelope Rivera in Dallas.
And in sports, the countdown is on for the inaugural season of the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Vaqueros football team, and KRGV is the official media sponsor of UTRGV Athletics. The station is launching Vaquero Game Day, a show dedicated to UTRGV football. The show will be live during every Vaquero home game to provide exclusive interviews and in-depth coverage. It will debut on August 30th at 10 a.m. on KRGV. And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.